Hi guys, just in camera, just a skosh there. Woo, boy, it's been a hot one. But it's 93 right now. But hey, it is about to be summer solstice in Bama, so yeah, it's actually not been as bad as I expected because there were a lot of summers that it was well over 100 by mid-May. So if it stays like this all the way through it, I take it. Woo. And for those of you that caught my video or caught my social post, the my niece Heather has found the hats and has got them for sale. She sent me a thing, said she's sold out. She's ordered more, so there will be more coming. Just keep an eye on that site, and they will pop back up when she gets more in. But people have been asking me about the hello Hiram. They've been asking me about this hat since I started. So Kodak, good evening. Hopefully that'll, everybody will get one that wants one. Uh, Jerry, good evening from Butler, Alabama. James Singer, hello to South Carolina. Richard Adams, glad you got one. Turtle D, good evening. Randy Robbins, good evening. 2020, hello. Thank you. Good evening, Bear. Bear's in the house. David, good evening to Orlando. Garen, hello to North Central Florida. Yeah, Hiram, it'll be gray and it'll age on its own. I think the original color of this was sort of a greenish color, sage green or something like that. But the sun's gonna bleach it out to a lighter color anyway. So it'll take on its own personality after you wear it a little bit. Blow radar, blow radar. Okay, cool name. Good evening, Stacy. Hello. Oh, Stacy Sparks. Where can you get gun butter? Do I have one within reach? Let's see here. Now you're gonna force me to put on my reading eyes to see something up close. Ugh. It's heck getting old when you can't see. You go to www.handmadeby. That's all one word. And all of it is one long word. So handmade by the letter C, the number 3, the letter G, the letter A, the letter C.com. Right there. That little line right there. That's Miss Lita. And she's got it on her site as Blackie's Gun Butter. So she'll take care of you. Jonathan Frisbee, good evening, brother. And hello to Jen. 2020, how you doing? Justin, good evening, brother. Lynn, you made it. Ronald Green, good evening. Yeah, Turtle D, I take the biggest size hat they make, like a 7 7/8. I got a big pumpkin up there. I didn't get in. I got in the wrong line twice. I should have gotten the other line twice, but that's another thing. Fish and Go, good evening to Illinois. Common Sense Karen, good evening. Yeah, Dances with Empties. I saw you guys in Canada are getting some of our weather all the way up there. It's not that common for y'all to have tornadoes that far up, is it? Down here in my neck of the woods, it's been kind of quiet. We've had a couple of storms come over, but Usually, starting by March, you have just every few days. We're so used to tornado warnings down here. I mean, it wakes us up 2 o'clock in the morning. You're like, if it's my time, and then we go right back to bed. We're just so used to them going by us, and now, it seems where it's other parts of the country. So, Garen, would gun butter work with other metal items? Yes, it's a rust preventative. Um, it was designed to be able to use with black powder to neutralize black powder and keep it from rusting. But I use it in my modern guns as well. I in one of my videos I was demonstrating. It may have been in one of my Master Woodsmen. I'm not sure, but I went and shot 200 rounds through a chamber insert, which is stainless. And when I got done, it was black. I mean, it was black. And because it was cheap 9mm. And I just slathered it up with that gun butter and gave it about 10 minutes to work. And I took a paper towel and I wiped it. Every bit of it came off. It looked like that barrel hadn't even been fired, And then I ran a patch up and down it in about 3 swipes. I did it on camera. I was done in less than 2 minutes, and it looked like the barrel hadn't even been fired. So it works well on other things as well. In fact, I've got a guy that does competition now up in Illinois. He's using it for his shotguns. He says he likes the way it keeps the fouling out of his barrels, the plastic fouling for shooting a lot of skeet. He says, I go through 1,000 rounds in about 4 days. So he's going out like shooting 250 rounds a day because he's competitive. So I understand. David Bullcrawler, yeah, I saw that down there. Lower Florida is going to be part of the Everglades. It's getting it. Drew, hello to Ohio, Northwest Ohio. Jeff, hello to Newfoundland, Canada. Yeah, Justin says he used metal zippers on his gear. It'll work on that too. Elvin, good evening. Enmatic Gwinich, hello. Bob, hello to Southwest Ohio. Dakota's in the house. Turtle D. It is kind of, I'm shocked how many people up in that part of the world know who I am. I really am. The first time I went to the Pathfinder school, I had a little bit of a small channel. I had like 23,000 followers. That was it. And I get up there and it seemed like everybody knew who I was. It just blew me away. I figured they were pulling a gag on me, to be honest. Because big name people were saying, hey, you're Blackie Thomas. I'm going like, yeah. I expected any minute there's going to be, candy camera, some sort of gag or something. So it never happened. Jeff, got a lot of moose. That's cool. Garen, yes, it'll work on carbon steel knives as well. Keeps them from rusting. Dwayne, hello to Indiana. Yeah, Dakota, it does. It seems like, when I look at my breakdowns on it, I'm well known in New Zealand, well known in Sweden, well known in Germany, Poland, Taiwan, and I think, in the U.S., actually further north, a lot more than here in the South. Down here, I'm just redneck to all these people, but hey, Cow Tipper, hello. North Carolina Piedmont Outdoors, good evening. Eric, hello to Marietta, Georgia. Lynn, hello to Germany. K-Town, yeah, if you're looking for forcing patina, something like oranges, grapefruits, mayonnaise, lots of stuff that'll do a good job putting patina to it. And that's part of a knife to me. It's got to look like it's been used. Something brand new out of the box just never did anything for me. That just tells me it ain't got no experience. I mean, all of my grandmother's kitchen knives were black. They were all carbon steel knives, and they had been in so much fat and hot water and grease and cut up so much meat. Those things were just as black as if you had, coated them. There was no, what kind of coating is on it? Carbon. a lot of built up carbon. Bob, hello to New York. Kenneth, hello to West Pennsylvania. Elvin, yeah, hello to Puerto Rico. Dances with Empties. You need an SKS loadout video so you can put a run on Survival Russia. I've thought about I've got an SKS, and I thought about doing a breakdown of it and showing all the things that I've done to turn it into a really good deer rifle. Because the 7.6239 with a good hollow point, and I get those PPV or whatever where it looks like it's round, and it's just a big hunk of lead on the end of that jacket. Those things open up like a quarter. And so it'll do anything a 30-30 will do out to 150 yards. And so SKS, especially when they used to be $65 a piece in the wrap, I was making up a lot of them, turning them into deer rifles. Down here in my neck of the woods, there were a lot of guys that want me to help them do a conversion on it to make it into a deer rifle. We didn't give a flip about all that fully auto stuff. No. None of that mattered to us. What mattered was, can I shoot deer with it? Can I shoot hogs with it? And so there were a lot of guys that we used to sit around and talk about how to put better stocks on them, better sights on them, hand load better ammunition. It worked well. Turtle D, that is Hooks Outdoors. He's the one that makes a little foldable, packable buck saw. Hooks Outdoors, good guy. K-Town, if you're up north, you're probably enjoying the long days now. Of course, we cook. I think the day is 14 something hours where I'm at now, and it's 80 degrees by 7:30 in the morning. So it's always like that down here. Although, knock on wood, it ain't been as bad as I've seen it. Garen, oh yeah, the old hickory sticker knives, yeah. They make really good camp knives as well. Rick, good. Hope you enjoy it. Yeah, Heather sent me a thing, said she sold out. She's got more on the way, but she sold out. And I really appreciate everybody, helping her out. But I've been looking for them for years, and I couldn't get anybody to talk to me. I was sure this was the American company that made it. And because I remember when I put this hat on, there was a Made in America sticker in it. And I set Heather on to him, and she's a bulldog. She will, by God, somebody's going to talk to Heather. And she finally contacted me, and she said, yes, Uncle Blackie, it's your hat. I'm sure of it. It just ain't as dirty as your hat. And so she did her job. She got in there. North Carolina Piedmont. Blackie, what's your favorite camp meal? Ooh. If we're at a big event, and you got enough people. My favorite camp meal was an elk steak about an inch thick that has to be marinated overnight in Vidalia onion, a little bit of red wine, and a little bit of whiskey blended in. Then that is brought out and that is seared really hot right quick to blacken it in a pan. It's brought off the heat, allowed to cool back down and put in indirect heat and slowly done until it comes up medium rare. I want a baked potato that's had slits cut in it to let the pressure out, and chives and garlic shoved into it, and then a little bit of butter wrapped up in aluminum foil and baked in the coals. Then you got to have the homemade biscuits coming out of the Dutch oven that are fresh and warm with sliced tomatoes on the side. That is my all-time favorite camp meal. And I've had it a few times at big events where friends of mine would bring me elk steaks. I ain't got the teeth for it anymore, but by God, that was my all-time favorite thing to cook and eat. And the thing about it was I'd start doing it like that and start cooking it. And before you ever picked up the fork and started eating, you'd have 30 people standing around and go, "What is that? What is that?" Yeah, it's good. Oh yeah, K Town. Your mosquitoes up there, I understand. Down here too. You get in the swamps and at sundown, it sounds like a flight of B-52s going by. Skeeters going by. You better have a smoky fire going. You better be slathered up in your stuff. And you better be sitting where your breath is going through the smoke of the fire. Otherwise, they're going to eat you alive. Or be under some sort of mesh because they are going to eat you up. They deep woods off. What is this little childish thing? You know, they're going to get you. Ed, Blackie, you and James Bender should do an overnight survival trip on video. We are actually talking about me coming up sometime this year and just the two of us doing a couple of videos together. He's got some land up there with a creek on it and everything. So we're talking about, we don't know if we're going to do a challenge video of whatever, or if we're going to do a combined video. We're going to see, but we're going to come up with something. I really like James. We're going to spend some time together. Oh, yeah. Oh, David, rabbit hunting, Vienna sausage, and soda crackers. Yeah. Many times. And if you were really high up, you had cheese crackers, you know, or you get fried sausage, link sausage, cut it really thin and put it between the crackers with just a little bit of cheese to hold it together, cheese whiz to hold it together. You know, sausage and cheese crackers, we'd put them wrapped up in aluminum foil and put them in a shirt pocket. And we'd get out there and be hunting. We'd go to eating them. Oh, yeah. Lynn, yeah. The cost of something like that is ridiculous. K-Town, good luck. Hope you catch a lot of them. North Carolina, don't have elk, but do have some venison. Try it. It works. It's good stuff. Deer is really lean. Venison is really lean. And so you got to get some fat in it. Otherwise, it burns rather than does right. You know, and that's where elk, especially a female elk that's not been pushed and she's kind of fatty, it's a lot more tender. So if you'll take that deer meat and age it about a week in the refrigerator, and then get some sort of, what we used to do is take a hog inoculator injector, and we'd take warm, not hot, but warm bacon grease and inject it into deer steak. So it'd be pockets of that grease inside of it. And then real slow heat it so that grease would go through all of it. Yeah, it made a difference. And of course, deer tenderloin wrapped in bacon with a little bit of cheese is really good too. Christopher Evans, good evening. Lewis, hello to Philadelphia. What's your best camp story? Oh boy. Oh, most of them can't be told in public settings. I'll tell you what. There's been some real interesting things going on at camp from time to time. Uh, I've had scary things happen. I've had a lot of funny things happen. There was the night that my dear friend, we were down at Grouch's, and it was January, and we were doing a frozen foot, which meant a winter camp out down there. And we had an outhouse, an actual wood outhouse on his land down there. And we had all sat around the fire and talked probably 11 o'clock at night. And it's this absolutely crystal clear night, this big bright moon, you know, and everybody had gone to bed. Well, about 2 o'clock in the morning, Squire, his real name was Al Seward, but we called him Squire, got up and had to answer nature's call. So he goes and sits down in the outhouse, which is a board, a little building, but there's a board with a hole in it. And he had sat down and the damn board broke. And so he went, boom, but didn't fall in. His knees kind of hooked over the front board and he grabbed it with his hand, but he's kind of sitting down in a hole. He ain't in the bad stuff. He's about, 2 foot high of it, but he's suddenly kind of trapped and he can't get it. So he went, boom. So he went to hollering, like, Grouch, Grouch, I fell in the pooper, Grouch. And all of us were laying there in bed going, dear God, please don't call my name. Please don't call my name. Grouch had to get up and go grab him by the arms and pull him back out. But yeah, we got laughs out of that for years. Oh yeah, Taxman, backstrap on a biscuit, sliced on a diagonal. Yeah. Yeah, Garrett, I hear you. Yeah, Turtle D. I brined and then injected a turkey with bacon fat, then smoked it. It was pretty good for turkey. Yeah, that's a very good way to do it. A lot of the stuff that was done in the day was to add flavor because one thing was how many ways can you cook chicken? Spices, flavors, something to change it because you might eat chicken 3 times this week because that was what you had. It was fish or chicken. And so people were very good at changing the flavor. And I can clearly remember as a boy eating deer and you couldn't tell what it was. I mean, it didn't taste bad. It tastes wonderful. But what is it? Is it pork? Is it deer? Is it beef? Is it because they were so good at flavoring it up? I have no idea. It just tasted really good. That's all that mattered. Ed, Bigfoot story. I do not have a Bigfoot story. I have never encountered a Bigfoot. I have encountered some things out there in the wild. I can't tell you what I saw, but I ain't never seen a true Bigfoot. Now, I do know that me and a good friend one time were on his land, and there's a big lake there. And so we're probably 250 yards away when we come out of the woods quietly, just putting along, really kind of coasting down the hill on this truck. And as we turned the corner and we could look across the lake, on the far side of the lake, something stood up. 2 somethings stood up and then turned and walked away. And they were rusty brown. And we pointed it out. We both saw it, but we couldn't be absolutely sure. Now we circled all the way. It took us about half hour to get over there. And there was an area the size of a pickup truck hood mashed down flat in there. Couldn't see any clear tracks or whatever. Now, if it was a black bear, it was a big black bear because we don't have them that big down here. But that's the closest thing I can give you. That's the closest I can ever say. I don't know what I'm looking at, but it's walking on 2 feet and it's walking away from me. And it's, 250, 300 yards out. I've got really good long range eyes. Short range, I'm far sighted, not near sighted. So I can tell you without these what's going on 1,000 yards. But I couldn't tell you what that was. It was big and shaggy and reddish brown. That's all I know. Mark Burris, good evening. Herbert, going to the knife show in Raleigh, North Carolina. Cool. Buck 112. Skunk 8 Woods, I hear you. Book Alter, chicken and dumplings, yes. You take, go get a rotisserie chicken from like Walmart or whatever. It's already made up. Okay. Come home, drop it in the stock pot, bring it to a hard boil. Boil it maybe 10, 15 more minutes. It's going to fall apart, just fall off the bone. Because it's already cooked, right? Fish the bones out. Now in that broth you've made, add a little bit of spice and take tortillas and take a pair of scissors and cut them up into squares about 2 by 3 and drop them into that. Stir them up one time, turn it off, let it sit there about 10 minutes, and they'll puff up and make dumplings. You made really good chicken and dumplings in just a few minutes that way. I've done that at camp before when we had to feed a bunch of kids. Okay. Unbid 45. I'm just going to say un45. Thank you very much. Glad you found it. Welcome in. Yeah, my kids love steak, but not pork. So a little flavor and a little white lie, and they didn't know what they're eating. I got you. True. Canadian gooses do taste different. And I have popped one or two of them before. Garen, fat has always been good for us. The big conspiracy theory. We had a president that had a heart attack, and it was such a rare event, the doctors really didn't know. Most of them had never actually treated one in their careers. And so they did an in-depth trying to figure out, and these, of course, they saved the president. And it was a big national secret. Didn't want anybody to know he'd been ill. And what they came up with, it was too much sugar in the diet because sugar had become really available in the U.S. in quantity at a cheap enough price around World War One or a little before. Prior to that, it was really expensive and you didn't waste it. You stretched it. But sugar now is in everything. Definitely after World War II, it was everywhere. And they figured out it was sugar. Well, the sugar industry really, really did not like that. And so they paid hecklers. Every time this professor would go and try to do a seminar, explain it was too much sugar that had caused it, they would heckle him, ridicule him. They published papers, oh, he's a quack. It's all completely, it's fat. Fat's what's making everybody this way. They then have proven since then multiple times over. The body eats fat, digests, it's gone. The Eskimos eat pure blubber. And it makes them healthy in the cold. The body just digests and it's gone. Fat is the perfect food. The body it's already broke down, ready to go. Whereas sugar was the problem, but the sugar industry funded all the smear campaign for 40 years trying to keep people from doing that. I kept saying you can't have lard, you can't have that, you can't have whatever. It's strictly business, Whereas I've eaten fat my whole life. It tastes really good to cook with fat. And my father-in-law was severely diabetic 75 pounds overweight, 70 years old. His bad cholesterol was like 12. They used to run it several times, I wouldn't believe it. And his good cholesterol was like 218. He lived into his 90s, even with all of those things stacked against him. And it was because he ate so much fat. He loved fatty stuff. And so he's like me. I'd rather take the fat off the steak. You can have the steak, give me the fat. But, yes, sir, Christopher. All things in moderation. Don't go too big in any direction. Even oxygen is toxic in enough concentration. Terry, good evening. Welcome to the channel. Jeff, I'm trying intermittent fasting right now. We called it being poor when I was young. You had to skip a couple of meals because you just couldn't afford it. It worked keeping us lean. Terry LaRue, hello to Texas. Matthew Wood, hello. Yeah, Dead Prepper, I remember that. Especially the more, not the tallow, but you get kind of close into it over there. And there was a waxy type of fat, not quite the tallow now. And I can remember them taking that and cutting it up in hunks. Oh, about an inch thick, maybe 2 inch square, and soaking it in stuff to kind of like marinated it, and then just throw it in the skillet with something you want to cook and heat it up, and it's good. I remember putting them on biscuits. I took that and plopped it on a biscuit with a little, yeah, that was great, but hey. Dancing with Empties. What kind of bush chickens do you have in the deep south? Partridges, grouch. We do have a little of that, but we dove down here. There are actually wild chickens that have got loose in the woods sometimes, but we don't have anything like grouse or something. They need open areas, and we got too many foxes and stuff to eat. Any kind of ground nesting bird is really fighting. We're having a tough time keeping quail down here because we've got so many coyotes and stuff now that just wipe out the nests. So any kind of ground, nesting bird is really having to fight. Tony Wilson, there is a scientific difference between saturated and unsaturated fats, correct? One the body processes easily, the other one we do not. Dead Prepper, Blackie, do you have any interest in doing overnighters? I do quite a few of them actually. But if you're talking about me doing overnighters on camera, like the camp and cook, yeah, I'm willing to do it. It's a juggling act. When I get to go camp, I'm camping for me. And it's kind of like my day off. And I hate to be the guy when I'm going with a group to be the one with a camera. You know what I mean? So me and Dakota have talked about getting together this summer and doing some stuff. And there may be an overnighter or two in there. We'll see. Fred, hello to Louisiana. Matthew Wood, awesome. Anonymous, hello. It'll kill, good evening. Enoop, that is correct. Same stuff, different day. SOS, same old stuff. Panda 62, hello there to Missouri and Ozarks. Oh yeah, Ed, jowl bacon, yeah. You always fought about the good cuts, didn't you? We'd sell that other stuff. Them big old slabs right there. Grandma would fight you over that. that would get earmarked for being put into peas, butter beans, stuff like that. You know, of course, I like to slice it up and fry it. No, no, boy, we got to use that for something. So. Andy, good evening to South Georgia. Dance was empty. Yes, we have a lot of turkeys down here. Um, Pretty good sized ones as well. It'll kill. I'd love to see some bushcraft first aid videos. Okay. I will list down. Okay. Now, the person that I'd recommend if you want to learn some of that stuff beyond even me, go look over at Fuel the Fire, and you want to look at. I can see your face, brother. Give me a minute. I'm drawing a blank. The big guy that runs the thing, he did a thing at our Silver Wolves that's ditch medicine. He's got EMT training and everything else. Plus, he's a first responder for national disasters and all kinds of stuff. Dadgummit. His name will pop to me in a minute. Just hang in there. I'll blurt it out here in a minute. Eric Vader, glad you enjoy it. Jimmy Dunlap. Blackie, what do you think of Harmony, North Carolina? Very pretty place. I liked it. I really did. I love that part of the country. Matthew Wood. Awesome. Terry, Blackie put together a Silver Wolf gathering someplace in West Louisiana or East Texas. That might come about. I was talking to William Collins, and he may have a place over there. So we may coming year we'll see if we can put one out there in Texas or something like that. I'm getting a response from a lot of places around the country that said we'd like to do Silver Wolves. Would you be willing to work with us? I said, sure. So at present we're doing, of course there's down here at my place, then there's James Bender in Ohio, then there's the Fuel the Fire group in Georgia. I have talked to the Woods Runner School in North Carolina, I believe that is. There's a gentleman in Michigan that wants to do something up near the Boundary Waters. And then there's, I've talked to William possibly about doing something in Texas. So, it's growing. Just hang with us, guys. It is still growing. In Mahia would be a good spot. Don't know. It don't ring a bell to me. I know where Mahia is, but I just don't remember the place. Dan Duvall, hello. Jonathan Frisbee. Jay, not Jay Hercules. No. Dadgummit. Mike Simmons and the big guy. Dadgummit. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank night on his name. I will get it. But anyway, Lane White, hello to Wisconsin. JJ, thank you, Jonathan. JJ Morris. Go look at Fuel the Fires, JJ Morris, Survival Dispatch. JJ Morris, he is the woods medic. This guy knows his stuff. If I was out there broke up, JJ would be the one I'd want to come get me. Hook, crook, you're going home. You know, it might be 4 pieces, but you're going home. JJ's the guy. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. Lewis, first aid series on video sounds great. I will discuss it. You know, that would be a good thing to do a collaboration between me and the Fuel to Fire guys on it because they've got different experience than I do. I've got a lot of firsthand experience in dealing with injuries in the field. They do too. And so we might come up with a no BS wilderness survival type of medicine and stuff like that to put out there. It'd be a good one to do. Will, how is Sir Grouch doing? He is doing very well, actually. In fact, I go to see him tomorrow, and we're inventorying his vast collection of books and etc. And so I'm helping him inventory stuff, and I've been going over every other week and spending the afternoon with him. So that's the game plan tomorrow. I'm going to spend most of the day with him. Going through his, I think tomorrow the 2 bookshelves are Marine Corps history. I think it's Marine Corps history and Force Recon history, 2 different bookshelves. I think we're going through tomorrow to inventory books and figure out the prices of the books, the rough value of the books, stuff like that. It'll kill. Blackie, have you ever made and used rabbit sticks? Yes, when I was a young man and quick and nimble, I would make them and use them because a lot of times you'd be walking on the edge of the field or whatever, and you wanted a stick in case there was something there. We had a lot of wild dogs. You had other things out there. If you wasn't going to be toting a gun, you toted a stick. And so having a rabbit stick was pretty handy, especially when they'd hop out and things start going away from you, and you'd whistle and they'd stop. You'd throw that thing sidearm at them and then whistle, and they just stop in the middle of the trail. Whop, you know, and then you got you something to throw in for the pot. So, but I have used them, but when I was younger and a little closer to the ground, you know. Andy Knight, Blackie, I sent Alejandro and staff at Pieta Firearms and Endley some fruit for thought to inquire whether they might do a Pieta 36 leech and rigging revolver using their stock parts. I think that'd be a good idea. You know, the market is saturated with all the standards ones. They need to breach out in some of these other little left field guns. I mean, remember a few years ago, not them, but they brought out a Star. And there's a few others out there that, you know, I'd like to see a lot more of the Confederate guns in there, especially for the modern reenactors would love it. They've got a market. Enu, don't worry about it. You know, you get better. You know, they'll be there. You get better. Chris Evans, if I was out in the woods, and I have done this, and I had a big bleeder, not artery, but I got a bleeder, pretty bad bleeder, and I don't have anything other than something like a rag to make up a thing. If I can get pine sap, I'll use pine sap to clot it. A puff ball, we call them, will clot one. And I've used black pepper before, and I'm here to tell you it burns, guys, it burns. But I had a pretty hard bleeder, and I had to stop it, clot it up where I could get something on it and get back out of here. And it was just a puncture wound. But it wasn't arterial, but I probably hit a vein, I'm figuring. One of the right where it jumped off of a vein or something. And so it wasn't bad enough for a tourniquet, but it was getting close. And so, but when I was a kid, I cut my hand pretty bad. My granddaddy just took pine sap. He damaged the tree, waited the sap. He said, let it bleed until the sap runs. Let it clear itself by, and then he took it on the edge of the pocket knife and packed it up in the wound and pressed it down. And it glued the skin right back closed, and then he wrapped his handkerchief around it and said, "Hold the fist. Now let's walk out of here." Of course, the guys in the emergency room are going to hate you, but Eric, Blackie, are you going to be doing a Silver Wolf class with James Bender in Ohio? We will be doing more up there, yes. We're just not doing it this fall, but we may be doing another one probably first of the year. We might decide to do one in the summer, but we're working out, because we got James also got his own classes he's doing up there, so we got to work out times and etc. It'll kill. Do a video at Grouch's. I'll think about it. Anonymous, was Blackie a Boy Scout? I, as an adult, worked with Boy Scouts. As a boy, I really wanted to be a Boy Scout, but it just never happened. There wasn't anything around me that I could become part of. And none of my parents or family members had any time for that. That was, boy, I'll teach you how to hunt. Come on. And so camping and stuff like that. So I wish I had had a troop nearby that I could have been part of. It would have probably been a great thing. But as an adult, I worked with Boy Scouts for about 15, 18 years, where I started out doing living history, putting on big events for the entire council or the district to come in and do stuff. I was part of the group that still puts on down here in the South called Woodsmoke every December. And then we put on others over here in Dale County. And then that flowed over to where I was on roundtable committee for the entire region down here. And my job was to teach Scoutmasters. And so I would teach Scoutmasters the merit badges that they're trying to teach their kids. And so that's what I did for several years. Dances with Empties. Good evening. Sleep well. Regulator. Hello to Eastern Kentucky. Taxman. War Eagle. Jeremiah. Good evening. Miss Pam's in the house. Are y'all okay? Are y'all flooding out down there? David Burkhalter. It's probably GoX just got started in the last 8 months again. And of course, their first year is going to be just filling military orders for military artillery shell, black powder runs, naval artillery. I'm figuring it's going to, in the next year or so, it'll get more available. But right now, your big clubs are buying in big bulk orders, and the government's buying in big bulk orders. So the fact that they were down for nearly 3 years, 2.5, 3 years, they got probably quite a bit of back order they're trying to dig through. But I'm hoping that GoX will be more common, easily available soon. Anonymous, awesome. It'll kill. You can do salt, but it ain't no fun. Which neither was mercurochrome when we were kids. Tennessee Smoky. Blackie, do you still have that notebook full of ideas? Right there. I use it fairly often. And then this is my little Merlin book of designs and ideas for future projects. That's all the Master Woodsman series videos. That's something that I'm working with Jay right now, hammock heater. That's the Blackbird haversack, percussion revolver, ammo carrier, bread canteen cup, biscuits, cobbler, knapsack, the Blackbird 2, Red Hawk, excuse me, Red Hawk. The Nomad Haversack, a pancake holster for a single action army, a type of tent, the Scout Haversack, the hammock. It's a hammock bedroll tent. I've got the Nav Hawk Haversack, the Safari that's got a holster on it for a sidearm, the Boy Scout one that I'm working on do for a video here in the next couple of days on carrying a 1-quart Boy Scout canteen and a Boy Scout skillet together in a carrier, so it's kind of like a canteen set. And Blackbird Haversack sliders of various things to put on there. Long Hunter bedroll set and mods to a K-bar. And the Military Warhawk set. That's a few of them. Yeah, I come up with ideas. I keep notebooks. Because I'm old. There ain't as much room up here as there used to be. So I have to rely back on it, go back and look at it. Oh, Mr. Simmons here. Wonderful, sir. Homemade self-reliance. You missed out. I could not remember JJ's name to save my life. No matter how I tried to make it happen, I kept saying Mike Denny. And I knew that ain't Mike Denny. It's JJ. And I just could not get it out of my head. But Jonathan Frisbee finally set me straight. I was trying to give him a thumbs up and promote his dirt doctor, ditch medicine seminar that he puts on. Several people in here have asked, could we do a first aid, wilderness first aid type thing, and real world stuff. We might, 3 of us, get together and do a video on that, or a couple of videos. Matthew Wood, correct. I'm on the border of Dale and Coffee County. Woods Walker, 1964. Hello. Thanks for coming in. Terry, what's your thoughts on 17 HMR? Really fine flat shooting gun for small game within 100 yards. Billy, are those right in the rain notebook? That last one was, yes. Woodwalker, a lot of good notes in the book. Thank you. Jeff, Blackie is amazing. I'm just a redneck in Lower Alabama, dude. My job is to people. I stand behind a legion of people that knew 10 times more than me, that each one pushed a little bit of knowledge in my head just so I could share it with you guys. My job is just to regurgitate what I memorize. Memorization, regurgitation. Bring it back up. Remember what they told you? Show them. That's what I do. David Bullcalder, good night. Sleep well. It'll kill. Blackie was the musket pistols, dragoon type pistols, designed to be used as a club or what. I have a 50 caliber Kentucky, and other than catching a piece of flesh, it figured it'd be shaped like that. Yes, most of them were designed to be turned into a club after you fired, because you only had one shot, and if you were in close quarters, there was no chance you were going to have a chance to reload. And so that was meant for a point blank, get off me. In fact, quite often the intimidation of back up was what it was used for. Once you pull the trigger, it's a club. And many of them really did that. You see some of the boarding guns actually had a little knife blade underneath, almost like a bayonet, because once they pull the trigger, it's just a club. Yeah, Andy Knight, I heard that it was something like that. I think part of SD's bought it, and they've gone back into production, but like I said, they just got to dig out, because we think about it, for our black powder sport, but you got to realize most of the naval 5-inch guns and things like that still use black powder. A lot of the artillery rounds still use black powder. So it's still actively used in our militaries today. Turtle D, I think Hook told me you made biscuits. Yeah, I do make biscuits. Dutch oven, I cook them. I will never brag, but I say most people have never refused once I've made them either. But I'll never brag that they're good, but I'll just say that nobody's refused once I've made them. So, Turtle D, know some kind of biscuit story. Okay. We had my gathering one year, and we had a storm front roll off the Gulf. And there's probably 50, 60 people up there, and it'd been raining a little bit off and on. And I could tell what was coming, and I stood up at the fire and I said, I'm not going to tell anybody what to do, but Blackie's going to the tent. Y'all do what you want to do. So I went on to the tent. It just boom, 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 thunder coming. Well, about 25 minutes later, the bottom fell out, and it was like 3 inch per hour rain, and just thunder and lightning and wind, and everybody took off. I went and took a nap in the tent. I had me a big canvas Boy Scout tent up, and I took a nap on the cot. And so I woke up, and all the thunder and lightning was done, and there was just water dripping off of the trees, and the frogs had gone to singing. Usually when the frogs start singing, it's over. So I opened up my came out of the tent. Nobody's over, and there's this big, beautiful bed of coals. I mean, that bed of coals was like that deep and 3 foot across. I grabbed my Dutch oven and my stuff, and I went over there and I heated up my Dutch and I made biscuits. And so I got them sitting on top of it, and I'm rotating it and everything, and nobody else, And right about 15 yards that way was William Collins's pickup truck. His tent's on the other side of his hammock. What I didn't know is he'd been washed out of that hammock. He was in his truck. And so just as I finished and I took the lid off and they were done, they were perfectly golden brown, he opened the door of the truck and said, "Are they ready yet?" "Yeah, brother, they're ready." So here come him and Todd Gibson. And Todd Gibson goes, "I got some Conecuh sausage. Let's put some Conecuh sausage on it right quick." So they skewered one and put it out there with the squirrel cooker and went to heating up sausage. And so out of there were 6 cat head biscuits. Out of the 6 cat head biscuits, I got one. And that was the end of that. So, that's my biscuit story, Oh, cool. Dave Matthews in Raleigh. I listened to some of his stuff in the early days. Donald, have you ever read Creek Stewart Survival Hacks? I have not read that one. I have read his book, his little pamphlet on the bow drill fire, but I have not read that one yet. I intend to get all of them to add in my collection. It's really good information. Yeah, Mike tells JJ that'd be a good one for the 3 of us to get together, and either I drive up or whatever, and us do a collaboration, and it might be something we could release to y'all or whatever. We'll see. Kent, good evening. Christopher Evans, well, thank you very much. We try our best to share what we can. Good night, Fred. Terry LaRue, I understand. Pam, yeah, that I believe that was y'all's first gathering down there at the lake. And the frogs singing, yep. Donald, Conecuh sausage is good. It really is. Mitch, yes, it did. She's got more coming. And whenever I told her about it, we talked about it. We were at Pathfinder, and I gave her my information. She looked it up on her phone. I had talked to the company. The company didn't want to talk to me, basically. I got an email, and then silence. And I handed it off to Heather, and Heather's a bulldog. You're going to talk to Heather. And she contacted me and said, I got it set up, and yes, it is your hat. So she'll have more coming. Christopher Evans, have you ever modded the mainspring on a single action reduced pull tension? I have added a leather washer between the spring and the frame. I take an old belt, drill a hole just big enough for the screw to go through. Make sure it's only sticking up about, I'd say the whole thing is no more than a ½ inch, actually a little less than a ½ inch. And then I would put the spring on and screw it in, and then take my knife and slice it off even on either side of the frame so it's the right size, and that will lighten it. However, I want it easier to pull. Also cause it to be more likely to have misfires, because if you have a hard primer, it's not as strong. You're reducing the power of that. You will increase your cocking speed. You will decrease your reliability. There is a pendulum there you got to play with. Oh, yeah, totally. Oh, yeah. When they cooked, everybody's hungry. Tennessee Smoky, I appreciate it. She's going to have more in. It's something she's going to keep on the site. So don't panic if you couldn't afford it right now and you want it for whatever. Just keep checking her site. She'll get more in. Oh, Ken, yeah, the old 9mm firearms, yeah, little Derringer. In the Derringer size, the 9mm is actually better than 357 or 38 Special, because the powder that is used in those two cartridges are designed for a revolver, and that has like a 4 or 6 inch barrel. And it's designed to burn a little longer. Well, when you put it in that short little stubby Derringer, you get a big flash, but the bullet doesn't get no velocity out of it because the barrel's so short. The 9mm, on the other hand, uses different powder, and that powder is designed to burn now, to get so you actually get higher velocity out of the 9mm than the 357 in such a short barrel. That's also true of the little revolvers. Once you get below like 3 inches, like a 3 or 2 inch barrel, the 9mm will outperform the 357 because it ain't enough barrel unless you hand load the gun, the cartridges yourself, and use the same powder that's used in the 9mm. You're not going to get the velocity because it's got to burn. It's ran out of burn time. It's outdoors, And so that's why. Oh, yeah, Larry Phillips, accelerator rounds. Used to have them in 30-06, 30-30, 308. You put a 223 bullet in it. Those guys out west, that your deer season was on like 3 days, but year round you could hunt prairie dogs. And so you could shoot a prairie dog with it, and then on hunting season just put a regular cartridge in it. But it was a Sabot ejecting accelerator rounds. Yep, you had a nice, pristine, clean bullet going down range. Terry LaRue, Nickel Colt 1903, mother of pearl grips. Yeah. Yeah, that was a house gun. Yeah, Chris Evans, the North American 22 Captain Ball Derringer, 6 shots, makes a good noise. It was really meant for side matches and cowboy action, point blank, card table, shoot across a card table with it, literally under 10 feet. Nice noise maker. That's about it. Big E's Knives, good evening. Texas Sheepdog, good evening. Yeah, there used to be a little cap and ball gun. It was a swivel barrel Derringer that you would turn it sideways and you could cap it. And then when you lined it up, top barrel would go, and then you'd have to cock it and rotate it for the other barrel to go. They were 36 caliber and smooth bore. Yeah, I believe they were smooth bore, but they weren't expensive. You get them in kits and put them together yourself. And it was really meant for these matches and stuff like that, where you're just literally, they used to call them card table matches, where you would have to sit down at a fake card table and you'd have a target literally on the other side of the table from you. And you had to pull your Derringer, shoot that 2 times, and then you could pick up your gun on that side, meaning you took it away from the other guy, and then you had to engage the targets out the window or something like that. It was okay for that, but don't try to hit anything else with it. If it ain't that big, don't aim at it. Hanging with Bullfrog and Son. Good evening, young man. What's an awesome all-around camp knife you would recommend? Well, a Old Hickory butcher knife is a great camp knife. One step up, more of a bushcraft knife. The Condor bush lower, not terribly expensive, decent knife. One step up, anything by William Collins. But you start getting into money there. But it's an investment. Start on the lower end, learn, get what and you will grow into it over time. And so that's what I recommend. The Condor bush lower, I carried that for like 2 years before I got my WC. I still got it up there. The knives that come out of Pathfinder SRO, those knives are good knives. And they're in the $100 and something range, $150 something range or less. And those are good knives for good camp knives. It's just what you're doing. And of course, a Mora, everybody needs to have a Mora and come up with it. You're going to make mistakes when you're starting out. And I would rather you messed up a $20 Mora knife than a $200 custom knife. Once you get the skill and once you feel confident, then start little at a time stepping up and get what you want. That's my recommendation. James Singer, cool. Pocket Police. I had one for years. And I had to put a little taller front sight so mine shoot point of aim. Had a little cross straw with it. It was one of my favorite canoe guns because if I encountered something like a snake, it was at point blank. It's like right there on that limb, like 2 feet away. Cool. So, and it definitely gives it more of the performance like a 22 Magnum on actual game and stuff. I've got several small game shots where you'd be floating along and pull up on a sandbar to take care of nature, and suddenly there's a rabbit, and stuff like that. It does a good job for that. Billy McDaniel, I bought a good condition Alice pack for cheap, and I came across your videos on it. Ever since, I've really enjoyed watching our videos. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for coming to the channel. Thank you for staying with me. Larry, laser chronographs. I've got an old cheap chronograph. I don't have the fancy ones. But yeah, if you're going to get into guns and loading, get a chronograph. Don't believe what's in the book. Get a chronograph and find out what yours is doing. Because when you would come to me and say, hey, my rifle loves this Winchester load right now, we're going to chronograph it. I'm going to take that thing apart and I'm going to micro measure everything on that thing. What kind of primers it got? What's the overall length of the brass? Who made the brass? How thick is the brass? What's the bullet in it? Find the bullet in the Spear catalog. What's the weight of it? What's the design of it? Is it a boat tail? Is it a flat base? And then we're going to shoot it over the screens and find out what the velocity is. That'll give me the powder. and then I would find the powder and find a way to match it to get the same velocity. So when you said, I need hunting ammo for this, here's your load, you know. But a chronograph, that's going to tell you what that velocity is. Don't believe what it says on the page. You know, get the chronograph. Chris Evans, yes, they still make the old 31 caliber Derringers, but they are pricey. Midway USA carries them, and so does Dixie Gun Works, and I believe Track of the Wolf. Good night, Turtle D. Woods Walker. Yeah, I've got a couple of theirs. I bought that butcher knife that Dave carried for quite a while, and the buffalo skinner, which is so very much like the one my grandmother had, my very first bushcraft knife. I'm using it a lot in the kitchen, to be honest. I mean, I carried it as a bushcraft knife for a little bit because I dearly love my WCs now, don't get me wrong. I like to play with new knives like everybody else, but that SRO, that buffalo skinner, that's become my favorite kitchen knife. Terry Blackie, what do you think of a hatchet of 1065? Well, in 1065, it should hold an edge for a hatchet fairly well and should bend rather than break, which if you're living in part of the country where there's a lot of rocks and you're trying to chop something on the ground and there may be a rock under there, I would definitely go with something like that because a lot of the higher steel ones want to chip out if you hit something hard. And you just don't know. I have split old fence posts for firewood because they're laying there, you know, and they're rotting. And I have went to split them and have nails in them and put a little ding out of an edge and stuff like that. In the field, I would much rather something bend than break. I can always figure a way to straighten it out, take a file or something. But if it breaks, I'm screwed. And so 1065 is not a bad steel for it. Higher steel count is better in some cases, but the 1065 is not going to hold an edge as well. But it's also not going to dull as easy. It's not going to chip out as easy. So the Puco is a very good design, Jeff. Yeah, Woods Walker. The Mora Bushcraft Black and Mora Garberg. Yes, very good knives. Ah, I hear you. Will, I inherited a 38 Derringer, and my granddad's story of two lawyers were after the same woman, and one decided to help the odds. Afterwards, he hid it under the barn where Grandpa found it 60 years later. I can believe that. Ken, good evening, Kent. Any suggestions for a concealed carry holster and a bib overall friendly? Yeah. I have taken in the years past, I wore bib overalls sometimes in certain operations. Okay. I went and on the inside, the side that faces to me, I sewed a denim pocket in there with Velcro on it, and I had a little flat 38 snubby that would go in there. Now they're used to that pocket up top, and they think you're gonna go here, but I could slide my hand into my bib like that and have my hand on my gun. And I was going out in West Texas and stuff like that, putting up radar units and stuff. And you're out in the middle of nowhere, you know, there's a slab of concrete and a tower, and you're putting together something, and people would show up going, "What's going on?" And you're all alone out in the middle of nowhere, prairie, Texas prairie type stuff. So, yeah, you didn't carry something, you were stupid. But I had on the inside of that bib right there. So I could just stick my hand like that and hook it up here on the top, and I'd have my hand laying on top of it up here on the top. And all I had to do was slide inside, and I'd put my hand right on it. Travis, yeah, that SRO Buffalo Skinner is a really good knife. Great in the kitchen. And you're going to do far more food prep out there in the woods, then you're going to do bushcraft gear. Now, if you want to do a lot of carving, yeah, it's not the knife for it. It does the job well, but something a little bit smaller, shorter blade is better for carving. But for a camp knife, where I'm going to be cutting up steaks, I'm going to be doing whatever, cutting up sausage to put in the pan, cutting up a bird to put onto, yeah, it's a great knife. It's the reason we call them butcher knives. That design evolved over like 300 years, and there's a reason that knife works so well. Johnny, pros and cons of painting your canteen bottles or cups with stove paint. Pro, soot comes off of it far easier than off the metal, in my experience. 2, it seems to heat a little more evenly, less hot spots, in my experience. Okay. Con, once they start getting scratched up, it kind of looks like crap, but it's easy to put another layer on there. And so I just use barbecue stove paint, take a Scotch-Brite and rough it up, do it. Don't do the actual mouth part, because I don't know if that paint is toxic, but I don't want my mouth in it. Don't put it on the inside, always on the outside of it. And as soon as you do it, let it dry, and then heat it up with no food in it. I like to just put water in it and boil it, 10, 15 minutes, heat that paint up. If there's any curing coming out of it, any chemicals, I want it to come out now. And I'm going to clean that pot real thoroughly before I ever cook food in it. I've never had any problem with that. And I started back when I was a kid taking the old Boy Scout super cheap aluminum set and found that painting it made it easier to cook with. And when you go into modern stainless or something, it's just, I do it for one, it's not as flashy. And so even in camp, handling around, that's a mirror shining to everything. And if I'm trying to be stealthier, I don't want to telegraph so much with it. And it's just my little 2 cents worth. I think it works better with black paint on it. Anonymous, you can't resharpen the Chinese sharpened knives. A lot of the kitchen knives are that way. What it is their angle is put on by a machine, and the actual edge right here, okay, that kind of gets blunt, and you got to back up and taper it all over again because there's nothing there to sharpen. The angle has got like that. They wear down, especially if it's been cutting and hitting on a ceramic plate or something, it blunts it. So you got to back up and take a wider shot. And what I tell people is, if I can't get a stone to work on it, get a file and make your, depending on the knife, how thin it is, and etc., make your taper start back at least like a 1/8 of an inch from the edge and taper it all the way. Get it where it feels fairly sharp with just a file, and then go to a stone, because it may actually wore off the damn sharp edge and you're down to the blunt, and all the polish in the world never going to get it off of it then. When I used to go around to make a little extra money as a kid, and I'd sharpen people's kitchen knives, and a lot of them clock, 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 clock on old heavy ceramic plates and stuff like that, and it'd like you just beating it on an anvil. And I'd take a file to just, let's get to a bevel now, like you're doing an axe or a machete. Then I'd go to the stones. Otherwise, you'd be there all day trying to get that thing to get an edge. Hanging with bullfrog, yeah. Check out the Moras and the Condors. If if budget's a thing, Mora first choice. Second be the Condor. The Condor would be the upgrade. Wilfred, good evening. Kent, good luck to you and safe driving, brother. Yeah, Anonymous, I hear you. My granddaddy ran Shine, and he had about 10 big, mean dogs. Nothing happened on that land that he didn't know about, because those were not pets. He went out there and he dumped a bag of food once a day. Y'all can fight over it. you know. And there was a deputy sheriff rolled up one day to discuss with him about making corn liquor. And when the deputy sheriff got out, two big mean dogs came out from under the house, and he pulled his 9mm and he shot them. Bam, bam. No, it was a 38, excuse me. Shot them. Bam, bam. Granddaddy was in the house. He comes up to the screen door and opens the door and looks at him. And of course, the law dog said, "I was within my right. They're dangerous. They're vicious. I'm within my right to shoot him." Granddaddy sitting there with a dish towel and just did like that and said, "Got more bullets?" There was about 15 dogs coming at a dead run across that field. He got back in the car and left. You know, go ahead and shoot them. I'll drag them to the edge of the field. They can eat them tomorrow. You know, those were not pets. Those were a guard system. So, yeah. Oh, find your friends with Alan. What episode do you demonstrate the Prusik on a bowline using a tube? Okay, let me think about the name a minute. I believe if you go look in my playlist, I think I've got a playlist on knots or woodsman skills, one of the two. And I've got all my knot tying in there. And I believe I call it a cinch strap is what it is. You put a toggle on it and you slide it to the length you want. Come over the top and you hook the toggle to it and you pull it. The one I did on the toggle loop that goes through and you pull it and it cinches, same as Felix Emmerman had done, which I didn't know it at the time, but afterwards I did. And me and him started talking because of it. Right after that's when I did that one where I did the Prusik on the loop. That way it's a continuous loop where you just adjust the length you want, go over the top, put the toggle through the loop and pull it tight. And that way you can adjust length. And I want to call it a cinch strap. I believe that's the name of the video. But I got not long now, I'm going to have 1,600 videos. Like keeping them all up here gets kind of jammed up. Johnny, yes, use barbecue paint. Since it's barbecue paint, it's designed to be around A, high heat, and 2, food. Where why don't you use high temperature engine paint? Because that's not designed to be around food. A barbecue is. So I'm betting there's less things coming off that paint before you spray paint the thing, and then it ain't even dry yet, and you go to grilling chicken because you know somebody's going to be dumb enough to do that. So that's the reason I recommend barbecue paint, not just high temperature muffler paint or high temperature engine paint, because of the fact it's meant to be around food stuff. Terry, yours is stainless with a copper bottom. Cool. You can paint it if you want to. You ain't got to. And the copper is a better heat conductor. It really is. Eric Vader, thank you very much. Beefy, is Blackie the F-105 Thunder Chief pilot? No, I'm afraid not. Correct. Find your friends. I did that as well. The same idea on a quick deploy tent peg setup where you just thread the peg onto it. That way you'd slide the scent strap up to the length you wanted to pull it tight. You know, I adapted the same idea to 2 or 3 different things. One was the scent strap, and the other one was for a pre-set up tent peg. That way so you could adjust it. I was doing several things back in those days because my good friend Dan Lutz was having trouble bending over and stuff, and I was trying to find tips and tricks for him. So I'd come up with it or think about it, and something would pop in my head, and I'd do the video because he's up in Ohio, and tell him to go look at the video. And it was how to do tent pegs, how to do cinch straps, how to do whatever to make it easier for him, so he didn't have to tie knots so much. Yeah, really interesting flavor. What seasoning did you use? Krylon. Yeah, that's a good one. Edwin, I've heard about some of them Ukrainian knives. They seem to be fairly good. I've had one in my hand at, I think, one of the Pathfinder gatherings, but I haven't had any real time with it other than that. Okay, OO, you only ever had 2018 vision at best. I had 2020 in my left eye and 2800 in my right. Legally blind in my right eye. And 2800, that was it. Or was it 8800? It was a ridiculous number. When I went and they did my uh, eye exam, the machine can't read that eye at all. And I was lucky. And there was a guy there who had taught college for optometrists and was kind of moonlighting at this place to make a little extra money. And so he spent nearly an hour with me in the chair. I mean, he's bringing out things and blowing dust off to screw it onto the dang thing. And that's when he figured out that it was 20. That was at 208800 was this eye, and this one was 2010. So, but I have almost perfect night vision in this eye instantly. And so that was one of the things when I was young. I could stand up and walk away from the fire, and I can see out of this eye. It's kind of motions. It's like looking through a dirty glass, but I could see enough to step around a stump or whatever. Where everybody else was stone cold blind until their eyes adjusted. I could see at night. Mm-hmm. But then talking about knives, I did all the trends when I was young. I had to have a Rambo knife. I had to have the K bar. I did a year with a K bar. Then I did the challenge where it was a year with a kukri. And then I did another challenge where I had to do a year with a cold steel military classic, which looks like a Randall. I loved that knife. That was a great knife, but I had to get rid of it. And after I got a hold of WC knife, I mean, after that, man, all other knives are plain. Yeah, I still like playing with them. I'll be honest. But once you get into a WC knife, all them angles and stuff you can do with that thing, yeah, all other knives are boring. Well, thank you very much, Jasper. Glad to do it. Wild protein chips. Haven't tried them. Chicken, egg whites, bone broth, great flavor, no carbs. Cool. It's amazing to me some of the stuff they've come up with these days. It really is. In many ways, they're kind of reinventing some of the stuff we had way back in the day. Like I saw when I was traveling this spring, I think I was going to Kentucky, and I stopped at some place, and they were selling vegetarian or vegan, I guess you want to call it, pemmican. Okay, you know, and then there was a vegan version of uh, Slim Jim, a vegan version of Slim Jim. Boy, they are really stretching it out there trying to make this stuff, you know, which now they got all that 3D printing stuff. Hmm. I'm not too eager get into that, to be honest with you. It'd probably be the wave of the future. But I can remember my grandmother um, would refuse to eat, drink anything that had been done in a microwave oven because she'd seen that movie in the 50s and knew everything that went in there was radioactive. And therefore, you ended up with three eyes and, two toes on two big toes on one foot. And oh no, you can't do that. You'll mutate. You'll become a giant ant with 14 eyes or something. So she really didn't want to do that. Yeah, Tennessee sheep, Texas sheepdog, vegan, old Indian word for bad hunter. True. You'll mutate. You go hungry. The questioner, I hear you. Oh yeah, the mushroom knife, like an Eldris. I got you. Yeah, tried vegan hot dogs. It was like eating free fried beans and a sausage skin. It probably was. Which now I understand. For some people, yes, I can see where they're coming from. My baby sister Nikki, she got on to a vegetarian. She'd always been a big meat eater whenever we were in high school. And then whenever she got to where she decided she didn't want to anymore, and she got where she ate nothing but vegetables, and she did that for a couple of years, at least 5 or 6 years that I'm aware of, because she wanted to lose weight, and so she became purely vegetarian. And I could understand that, but there were some of the things she cooked. I remember walking in the house one day and the smell that came out of that kitchen, like, dear God, what is that? It smells like a skunk got trapped under the muffler. What is that? And she said, no, it's a such and such casserole of such and such. Uh-huh. Guaranteed to make you lose weight. Dang straight. You ain't going to eat that crap, so you're going to lose weight. You ain't going to eat much of it. It's soylent green. And they really is a soylent green now. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Soylent green is people. But I mean, you can recycle and eat dang near anything. And the problem with it is they do, you know, and it's caused us other trouble because they've taken where mad cow disease got going was it came out of sheep, and they were taking a waste product from sheep, grinding it up and adding stuff to it to make feed for cows. Cows are not carnivores, but they want to improve the beef. And that's where the disease made the jump from sheep into cows. And how it made the jump into us was us eating the beef from it. So can you imagine diabetic vegan? That's got to win some sort of prize for horrible. You know, I remember me and my first wife went to a Thanksgiving with her family one time. It was going to be a non-typical Thanksgiving, and we are going to do a fish fry instead. And so we drove for several hours to get over in Georgia to where it was going to be at. And then we loaded up into everybody got into these vans and hauled down to the Gulf there in Florida where they bought mullet. And they brought the fish cookers and everything. Well, the person doing the cooking loved roe, which is the eggs, and the mullet were about to spawn. You normally don't eat them when they're about to spawn because they're so equivalent of gamey because of the roe. No, he liked fried roe. So we're cleaning the fish because I just caught the fish with a net 5 minutes ago, and you buy them by the net full, and you're cleaning the fish, And he's immediately throwing the roe into the hot grease to fry because he wants to snack on it. And he burnt the roe. So now the grease tastes like burnt roe, which is just to the left of asphalt. And so everything that was cooked in that thing now tasted like burnt fish roe. So all the fish tasted that way. And when I thought it couldn't get any worse than this, that's when they brought out the dessert, which was diabetic cherry flavored cake. No sugar whatsoever. It took me 5 years to get that taste out of my mouth. It was that horrible. Edwin, correct. The BPSs and stuff, $30 a piece, you can't beat them. Eric Vader, good night. Sleep well. Justin, I'm not ringing a bell on the Peacekeeper 2 or the 3. Um, the Thin Bear we used, Hope, that was one of Hope's knives, and she really liked that, and it's in the kitchen right now. And I've also used the Cold Steel um, Bowie and several of the Cold Steel knives over the years. The SRK carried back in the 80s for a time. It was a decent, kind of a thick for its size, but once you sharpen it up and got the edge right, it was a fairly usable knife. So Cold Steel can be a decent working knife for the price. I had a cash can, which was a 20 millimeter can that I had put up in about 1990. And I think 2015, I decided to pull out that can. And I had ammunition and a few things in it. And I had a Cold Steel SRK in that uber funky steel they had back in them days, that super expensive steel. Still in the box, never used it. The only thing was the snap had rusted on the nylon sheet, but the blade was perfect. I gave it to my brother in law when I pulled it out, and I pointed out that it was that Pro V or whatever steel they were trying to promote back then that was the most expensive one they were doing. And his eyes lit up because he likes toys like that. So I gave it to him for Christmas. Patriot Preacher, what would you recommend for a centerfire handgun with squirrel hunting accuracy and defensive power as well for a get home bag? I would recommend about a 4-inch barrel 357 because if you will hand load with just a round ball into a 38 special case and put a light enough load, the ball will leave the barrel at about uh, 800 feet per second and anywhere from 7 to 800 feet per second. And it's perfectly accurate and more than enough to take out squirrels and small game. On the other hand, you can drop a full bore 357 in and you can take deer, bear, anything up close. See? And would work. The ammunition is readily available, easy enough to produce in the field by yourself, and it's something that's commonly made. It's not some exotic stuff. So I'd say a 357 about a 4-inch barrel and good sights on it, 4 to 5 inches, depending on your hand size you need, belt or more concealable, and that would be a really good all around thing to go with. Yeah, 22 mag is a very good choice. Just can't hand load it. Essie knives are really good knives. My good friend Micah is a big fan of Essies, and he's had several of the Essies. And whenever we, years ago, before he had to start taking care of his family, me and him ran the woods a lot. And if you ever saw me, you saw him. We were always just together, you know. And he was a big Essie fan. And it's a very good knife. Yep, Terry, Smith and Wesson K frame, about right. What they used to call a KIT gun. Today they imply you're putting something together, but that's not what it meant. Back then it meant the gun that stays with your camping gear or your fishing gear. And I can remember Model 10 Smith and Wessons that were being police gun turn-ins that we would file down the back and put a Smith and Wesson micro adjustable sight. We would then cut down the front sight and make it into a shark fin for thin it and make it more accurate, and have adjustable sights on it. And take those Model 10s, and you saw them a lot on guys' belts for a dog hunting gun, a fishing gun, a camping gun. It was carried with a rat shot in it for snakes when you're fishing. Drop a full power load into it whenever you got a hog or something like that, or a big mean dog that you got to take out. And a lot of times you'd see the gun, and then right in front of the gun would be a little slider with like 5 or 6 extra shells in it of different power levels. And so you could drop that sucker in if you needed it. You carried X, And for a while when I did that, I carried 3 shot shells and then 3 full power hollow points. And I would put it where my first round up was going to be the shot load followed by another shot load. And then it started the full bores. Usually if a snake popped up, 1, maybe 2, usually 1, would take care of the business. And I didn't have to fire again. But on the other hand, if something bigger popped up, I'd go 1, 2, and just double cock, up, down. And then I know I'm now on my full power loads, because if some big mean dog showed up, I'm trying to scare him off. I don't want to have to hurt him. At the same time, we had a lot of rabid dogs. We had a lot of wild dogs. Back in those days, people did a lot of dog hunting. And dogs would get lost, or people would just throw them out, and they'd live and survive and just be wild. And they had no problem ripping you up, And so you had to carry something, fishing or whatever, because you'd be catfishing. They'd smell the chicken livers and show up. And both times I had to shoot one up close, it was because that big mean pit bull type one showed up, and it was because I had chicken liver and he could smell it on me. And he wasn't taking no for an answer. He was going to take a hunk out of me, And I tried everything to get him to leave me alone, to rod and tie, make some loud noise. He didn't care. He ain't scared of a human. So I had to put him down. I hate doing that. But I really hate having to go to an ER and get sewed up and take rabies shots. So you got to do what you got to do. Well, we got about 10 minutes left, guys. Anybody got another question they want to throw at me? Okay. Pizza Hut's going to free the other Algernon? Okay. Man, when I was a dating young guy, Pizza Hut was the place to go. You could go in there and get a big old pizza and 2 big drinks. And then, of course, you'd be playing the video games while you're waiting for them to do it. Where you took the girl, try to impress her and stuff, sitting, made it look like something. I remember the smell of a Pizza Hut. No place smelled like a Pizza Hut back in them days. Jonathan Frisbee. There ain't going to be no cookbook. That is all on Bear. Bear's going to be doing a cookbook. That was his fault, and I'm going to make him do a cookbook. You watch me. I'm struggling enough as it is to do my stuff. I ain't got time for a cookbook. Kent, good evening. Safe journey to you, brother. Be safe. James, good. Good old cat heads. In fact, I'm talking to Trinity and Heather and Carly, my nieces. They're planning on coming down to my gathering this coming year in 2025. And so one of the things that was requested was, would Uncle Blackie make biscuits for them? And I said, yes, Uncle Blackie will make biscuits for them one night. So. Oh, yeah. We'll round. Will, have you ever used a 1917? Yes, sir. I had a 1917. Picked them up back in the 90s whenever they came out of Brazil, one of those contracts. And Grouch has got my 1917. It would take full moon clips. I'd worked out my hand load, worked on the trigger thing. It was a very sweet shooting revolver. And I hated to have to let it go, but I got into a financial tide. And of course, my blood brother, Grouch, was there for me. I remember we were sitting in a canoe and pulled over and talking about stuff. And I told him how me and this mortgage company were going round and round, where they kept inventing charges that I didn't know. But, oh, yes, you do. Our records show you owe another $2,000. No, I don't. And got into one of them things. And I'll never forget, he sat there and I'm facing him. We pulled up on a sandbar, have coffee. He's got that box in the canoe with a little fire going in the box and heating up coffee. And I'm sitting there drinking coffee, and so's he. And he said, so how much money do you need to top it up? And I said, I'm probably going to come up a couple $100 short on this one. He went, oh, he just stuck his pipe back in his mouth, pulled out his wallet, counted out, $200 and said, here you go, give me the 1917, because I had it on my hip. Nothing like a blood brother to miss a good golden opportunity to help you out, right? I have tried to buy back that 1917 for 20 years. And he keeps saying, we'll get around to it. We'll get around to it. Uh-huh. Yeah. Hopefully one day I will end up with my 1917 again. Thur, Lone Star tick. What's a good way to repel it? Is the tick that gives you the red meat allergy. I would say permethrin on all your clothes, because ticks do climb up. They also drop down off of limbs and stuff onto you. So permethrin on your clothes would be a big help. Two, if I'm in some place with a lot of such things, I'll take Vicks Vapor Rub or something, or some other type of camphor light, and I'll put around all the openings, like right here. I'll put it around my arm. Any place they can go in, and then the soft flesh, I'll rub it on like you do something like Bengay works, something that's got camphor in it. They don't like it. And on my bare arms, sometimes I'll take Boudreaux's butt paste. You find it in the baby diaper section. If you're somebody that's easily eaten up by poison oak, poison ivy, something like that, Boudreaux's butt paste. Put it on you and smear it on your arms, and it coats your arm with a waxy type stuff that doesn't come off easy. Well, it does. It washes off easy, but you know what I mean. And it's safe for kids, so it doesn't wear off easy either. And so when we've been in really heavy tick areas where they're dropping down on you a lot, I put it on my arms, I put it around my neck and around where my pants are. I tuck my pants in. Anywhere there's an opening, I'll put some of that Vicks Vapor Rub or something like that. And they definitely do not like the Boudreaux's butt paste. Remember, they're trying to bite you. They want to smell the pH of your blood in order to incubate. They want to feed off of you, and they drop off when they're engorged, and then they only feed like once or twice in their whole life cycle. I think once in their whole life cycle. And so if you don't smell good, you kind of sour the milk for them, and they'll drop off of you because nah. And so, but I found that permethrin on the clothes, Boudreaux's butt paste, and Vicks Vapor Rub, or Bengay, depending. Seems to work for me. Hope that helps you. Will Rowell, how does the coffee in the canoe trick work? He had a wooden box that was 2x4, and across the bottom was 2x12. So it's 24 inches by 12 inches. It's box. Okay, so it's about 4 inches deep because it's the edge of a 2x4 nailed on top of it, right? That would be sat into the bottom of the canoe, and he'd put sand off the sandbar in there and pack it down, and he'd build a little bitty fire right there. And in the corner of the box, there was a piece of pipe put in where he had a little bitty piece of a squirrel cooker that would sit in. He'd swing it over, and he'd hook the bail of his coffee pot and hang it. And he'd put just small pieces of charcoal in there and burn it, or build a fire and let it burn down the coals. You know, a trick that I've done and demonstrated many times, I take the paper lunch bag and you put Kingsford Matchlight charcoal in it, 10 of them, roll it down, and then wrap it up with masking tape and then keep it in a sealed can. I make up a bunch of them in a 50 cal ammo can, so that when my wife wants a fire and I'm not there, she just pulls one of them out and hits it with a match. The whole thing burns, and you've got something to build a fire with, right? Well, he could do that with like 5 coals. And so he would put that there and light it. It'd blaze up and cool down. Then he'd set his coffee pot right on top of it, either with spacers or for that little trammel to come over the top. And he'd make hot coffee in the canoe as we were going down the river. See? So sometimes you'd see a little smoke. It'd be pipe smoke going this way and wood smoke going that way as it'd come down the frosty moor in the creek. Yes, sir, Malcolm. We're about to call it quits. I'm sorry you missed us, but you can back up and watch the whole show because it will be up and ready to be viewed here in just a few minutes. But that's 1 hour and 52 minutes. About time to call it quits, guys. Guys, thank you very much for all your comments and stuff. I really, really appreciate it. And thank you for all the support that you've shown for my niece with her hats and for my products and etc. I really, really do appreciate it. I truly do. I will be back on next Thursday night, same bat time, same bat channel. Till then, good night, safe journeys. God bless.